right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to TechGlamLIVE. I am Joe Mejica.
And I'm Doreen Pepers.
And everyone, we have a great show planned today. Joining us is the very own special, the Mandalorian of Thousand Eyes, Aaron Mankin. How's it going today?
Going well, guys. Thank you for having me. Appreciate this.
Yeah, I'm super excited today about our lineup. Finally, a solution that actually lets you see outside your network perimeter. You no longer have to wonder, why did we lose connectivity to this application? Or why are my remote workers unable to access specific cloud resources? Now you can tell your customers and end users with confidence that the issue is related to an ISP going down and exactly where the problem is. Or maybe it's due to a BGP routing error. Prior to Thousand Eyes, pinpointing an exact root cause was almost impossible because we didn't have any tools that showed us what was happening over the internet. Plus, we're going to be giving away some great Thousand Eyes swag by way of Jedi Skills Challenge. The challenge will test your Thousand Eyes knowledge. And at the end of Aaron's presentation, I'm sure everyone will be ready to show off their smarts. Hey, Joe, can you tell everyone about the Full Stack Trilogy and our upcoming episodes?
Sure thing. So the Full Stack Trilogy is TechGlamLIVE's 3-part series where we get to highlight Cisco's full stack observability solutions, starting from Thousand Eyes, which is what we're talking about today, IWO, AppD. As the forces behind our applications continue to grow, whether it be your hybrid architectures, your cloud environments, etc., we all need the power in order to understand not only these solutions, but to be able to overcome these growing applications. So joining us today is our very own resident data center PSS / Jedi Master, Michael Galligan, who will give us the story behind the trilogy, behind today's mission today.
Hello, folks. It is a period of application wars out there. Users are trying to access their applications only to run into the sinister pinwheel of death. A fearless icon with the power to destroy an entire application user experience. You, the Rebel IT team, is called in to fix the situation and bring an end to the pinwheel of death. But in order to win the battle between application good and evil, you must transform into user experience Jedis. You must learn the ways of the network, the application code, and the underlying resources, whether they be on-prem or in the cloud. You must be able to see your users access their data across multiple data centers. You must be able to see their journey across the internet, the network, into the individual lines of code, into the underlying resources, predict business impacts, and predict future problems. In short, you must learn the ways of the Cisco full stack observability force. Your training to be a user experience Jedi starts today, young Padawans. Back to you, Joe.
This is really exciting stuff. Let's go ahead and get some mind share from Aaron.
Awesome. Aaron, the Mandalorian of Thousand Eyes, thank you so much for joining us once again. So just out of curiosity, why are our customers looking for monitoring solutions?
So good question, Joe. I mean, the reason why customers are now heavily leaning into Thousand Eyes is because things have shifted. Before we had data centers where, branch offices connected via MPLS, which had QoS and SLAs associated with them. We had tools that captured packets, flows, and SNMP to show the problem areas within our premise DCs. And this is how we monitored and controlled that environment for our application to function. Sorry, let me move this out of here. So as we, in today's enterprise, the environment, we've exchanged our expensive, dedicated, dual diverse MPLS networks into hybrid models with little to no MPLS or SLAs, or even certainly no QoS. All those changes to the environment, and now we have the worst case scenario of work from home. And we get to solve the end user's home network problems. Yay, lucky us, right? So, but to top it all off, the new WAN is built on a network that has thousands of routing errors. Never mind the traffic engineering that goes into congestion from providers that oversubscribe their networks, or the millions of DDoS attacks. So, what do we tell our users in our C-suite that don't have that we don't have the right tools and we can't, find anything as far as a glimmer of, some small speck of what's happening in the background? What do we tell them? This is exactly what we tell them. I couldn't find a reference to the Obi-Wan. I didn't think it really fit, but to me, this really just made sense, and it's just our what we see from the network engineering side, right?
Yeah. So I have a question for you. So is the shift to cloud the primary use case for Thousand Eyes?
Yeah, no, that's, really, I think there's, three overarching use cases that we tend to see frequently. It's going to be around the customer's digital experience, the modern WAN IT implementations, employees' digital experience. And if you're not familiar with those terms, the customer digital experience is going to be the experience a company's customers experience when visiting websites, portals, web stores, those types of things. So example might be a retail customer that's attempting to browse to the company web store, but the site is unreachable because of DNS, CDN, ISP, or BGP path problems, right? Modern WAN, when we look at that, that's, IT teams are really looking to perform baseline audits as they go to operationalize SD-WAN, SASE, or cloud first initiatives or SaaS initiatives. And this baseline will serve as a design verification as will an application performance metric. So when it comes to SASE, we now have to monitor distributed cloud gateways, other cloud security services, as well as troubleshoot applications that are traversing through these gateways and services. And let's not be mistaken. We know that these other providers don't necessarily run a perfect network, right? So we have to look at that piece. Now, the third use case is employee digital experience. And that digital experience is going to be around the remote worker who's attempting to browse to business applications and how well those applications perform on a scale of 0 to 100 to help IT teams understand if their users are possibly encountering issues. Oh, and we get to troubleshoot their home networks again, right? That's the piece of that. So.
Awesome. So it looks like Thousand Eyes has, all these use cases, this full suite of solutions that I can put under my Jedi / I'm a Sith person, so a Sith belt on my lightsaber, etc. But how do I actually implement these use cases in Thousand Eyes? How does it actually get put into play?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really, Thousand Eyes leverages three distinct vantage points that we are going to provide full visibility from. We have these the cloud vantage points, the enterprise vantage points, and the endpoint vantage points. The cloud vantage points are going to be vantage points that are located within Thousand Eyes data centers, which customers can use to provide an outside looking in vantage point where they can run these tests. And this perspective is really important in monitoring SaaS apps and internet-facing applications. Really the use case we see frequently around this is around customer experience and remote connectivity, et cetera. The enterprise vantage point, these are managed and housed by customers within a customer environment, their own customer environment, and will typically be virtualized or put onto Cisco equipment that supports that, right? So the enterprise vantage point will aid customers in monitoring application performance in an inside looking inside or inside looking outside, as well as providing that good baseline performance in SD-WAN environments as well as monitoring overlay and underlay. And that's the modern WAN use case. And finally, we have the endpoint vantage point. Well, this will help IT teams keep an eye on the end user's web application performance, as well as providing critical visibility into users' home network and ISP that recently plagued support teams as they were tasked to solve these work from home user issues and the carrier was associated with that. And all these agents feed into the Thousand Eyes platform, where this data is compiled, correlated, and depicted in a visual format for our network engineers, our application support teams, our NOC analysts, our end user support teams to view. Additionally, the platform is going to provide dashboards for higher level consolidated visibility, scheduled reporting, as well as alerts, and webhooks and integrations into APIs. So you'll be able to script to your DevNet falls off, right? And also the one intended outcome of Thousand Eyes, as opposed to an unintended consequence, where something bad happens, is the unintended outcome I've noticed is that teams were previously siloed in their work and almost adversarial when they start working together. Their points of contention and finger pointing start to shift from an us versus them to a more cohesive team. And as the problems are solved quickly with data to back them up, the emotions are removed, and the primary approach becomes, let's solve this and move on so I can focus on my other projects at heart. Hopefully that answered your question, Joe.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, you know what's crazy? So I don't know if you have someone working in the back end, but someone either through Jedi Magic or the Force actually transmitted me a message. I'm going to go ahead and share my terminal and show what this is. Go ahead and pull this up. So I remember we were talking about use cases, and it's interesting because, you know, I think some customers that I've interfaced with, they've always asked, like, what are some relevant use cases, you know, for Thousand Eyes, right? You know, so I think one really good resource that, I don't know how you sent it to me, but there's this website, or not website, but a YouTube channel. I believe that Thousand Eyes is managing. Basically, I think from what I gathered, you know, in the span of the past couple minutes, is they were able to talk about 2 use cases in this specific video. I believe it was for 2 applications, Coinbase. If anyone here likes to trade cryptocurrency, I believe they talk about the outage, right? On how Thousand Eyes was able to really go into that outage and really uncover those issues. And then Slack, you know, I represent Cisco, you know, they're our competitor. They had an outage, but Thousand Eyes was still able to go into it and really uncover the issues they had. So Aaron, do you think, you know, would I be able to share this with our customers, you know, after our transmission today to let them do a deep dive into this resource that you were able to provide me?
Absolutely. Let's go ahead. Let's share that with everybody. I'd love to see them take a look at this. We covered, you know, things like the Fastly outage that recently happened. And on a continual basis, they're releasing this awesome information about what's happening on the internet and why it's affecting their applications and why they should really care about what's happening out there.
Sounds good. And I think next, so it looks like we talked about the use cases, we talked about the different agents. What does this look like? You know, what does Thousand Eyes actually look like? Is it a thousand-eyed screen? And what exactly are our customers looking at?
Yeah, sure. Let's jump into the demo. I think that's what everybody's really here to see, right? It's certainly not my ugly mug, but let's take a look at what it is, right? So we talked about a few different use cases. And in this case, I'm going to run through all 3 of them. But the first one is going to be around customers' digital experience. And so the scenario in this demo share is the following. It's 6:30 a.m. Pacific time, and you haven't even had your first cup of coffee. A ticket was escalated to you as a lead network engineer. Customers are reporting via Twitter that they cannot reach the support page and on your website and support.activision.com. And when I say the ticket was escalated, it was your boss calling you, waking you up, and telling you this better get resolved ASAP because it could become a SEV 1 issue. And that will mean an all-day conference call with 25 other people on mute with video off so they can browse for Prime Day deals, right? So let's avoid that if we can. Let's agree on a couple of things before we start. Green is good, red's bad. And so now that we agree on that, let's jump into this. And what we're looking at is when let's take a look from a bottom up here. So from the perspective on the map here on the bottom, right, we're going to see our tests that are running. In this case, we're looking at cloud vantage points. Around the world, these are all testing support page every 15 minutes. On the bottom left, we have the summary of the testing, which shows 4 agents are failing during this test. You can see the 2 agents test failed. We at the connect stage, we could see two agents failed at the SSL negotiation stage. Well, we can also look at the tabular view and see some additional information that maybe we can draw some more conclusions from. So when we look at the tabular view, we're going to see that our agents that are failing are brought to the top, and as well as interestingly enough, they show the same IP address for our target, which adds some detail that the provider that is likely performing some geo load balancing of some kind, and so that's interesting to me, right? Now working our way up to the right, we can see that the timelines showing average availability. We can also change the metrics as we're exploring these to response time or throughput as well here. So As in this case, we want to see the specifics from one of our 4 problem vantage points. So let's select Barcelona and see what what would look like, not just to the average of all of our agents, right? So we can now see the performance metric specifically for Barcelona. So what we've learned so far, we know the following: DNS is not likely the problem. The name resolved, and we can verify this by going back in time and see what normal looks like. The address hasn't changed. We know that. We know the DNS records haven't been adjusted outside of change control. The DNS hasn't been poisoned. So there's no nefarious actors in play here, right? SSL is acting according to plan. There's no expired certificates, no invalid host names or verification problems. So we have effectively removed these 2 critical steps from being on our sus list, right? So what's left? The possible suspects cause. We have network path problems, including last mile, routing, path security appliances, and of course, server and application availability. So let's take a closer look at what we can determine from the network visualization path, so we can eliminate some of these other possible causes off our list. Okay, so we've moved into the path visualization, and we can see that our metric drop down options have changed. We can see loss, latency, jitter, as well as the full path visibility from our agents on the left in the green or red. If you hover over these agents, you can see the summary of the test, including additional information on the test. We can see TCP segment sizing, MTU, and other details associated with this from tests being ran from this agent. Now we look at the dots to the right of the agent, so we can see the white nodes, light blue nodes, and aquamarine colored nodes. Each of these colors denote a specific type of node. So with white nodes are not responding to the test, and with details of geography, provider, or other information that we can see from other nodes. This would be equivalent to a trace route output not providing any details in the stars, right? That we see in trace route output. The light blue nodes show that IP information is available, and finally, we are able to on this screen on these we're going to be able to see the some additional information, and when we get to the aquamarine nodes, this will indicate that the node is within the destination network, as you can see these here. So we know that these are in the destination network, and we're getting closer to some of our problems here. And when we look at, bear with me just a second. So now if we only show the Barcelona vantage point, we're looking at this specific vantage point only. We're able to see our first nodes in the path showing red. And I'm sure we have a bunch of people saying, "Hey, dummy, I see red. You said red's bad, right?" And you're right. We see something interesting, and that is definitely narrows down our troubleshooting or to routing or path problems. So which is it, the routing or the network path? If we change our metric to look at latency, we can now see a path that is taking significantly longer to reach the target. Is the latency because of a saturated attachment circuit or routing? Right? That's the question I come back with. So we can see this. So let's go to the last segment. We need to check routing this, as we have seen this come up a couple of times during this event. It definitely warrants further investigation. And if we look at the BGP route visualization, we see a couple of things that jump out at us. And even a new color, and you're probably thinking, WTF, dude, you never said there was anything about purple. So let's look at this event, and let's take a look at, and you're right, we haven't talked about that, but what is the information on the platform that is bringing it to us, right? And this is, as we look at this route visualization, we're going to see some other information. And this is a portion of the Thousand Eye service called Internet Insights, which will indicate a larger scale outage from a higher level. The outages covered in this service can be part of a package, including ISP, DNS providers, UCaaS providers, and other cloud services on a global or geographic basis, like North America or EMEA, et cetera. So in this information combined with what we know is really adding credence to this event was not only out of our control or the SaaS provider's control, but of a larger event involving the prefix our servers are addressed in. And certainly /20 affecting 4096 prefixes is a significant event. So what exactly happened? If we scroll down, we can see the BGP route visualization and can see that our prefix encountered an update at the time the event started. Subsequently, we can see that the dotted red lines, which indicate old path versus the solid red lines, which indicate new path from those updates. Let's hover over a portion where we see these red changes here. There we go. So now we can see this BGP route change here. Now, the next use case is around modern WAN. And I'll run through this one a little bit faster as some of the pieces have been identified here. So our second use case, we're going to look at the modern WAN use case. When we talk about SD-WAN architecture that is encountering some increased latency, and this is being shown on the test where we are targeting our critical business applications running on the SD-WAN overlay. And we can see our target URL is called out here for our test. Additionally, if we look at the HTTP server portion of our test, we can see that the only indication of a problem is increased latency. So we can quickly take the following items off our sus list, right? Page. There you go. So that increased latency is visible from that standpoint. So so now we have to figure out what can we take off of our suspect list. We know that DNS and network reachability are not a problem here. And we can see that a couple of other things that our notorious red line, if we look at the path visualization, is going to show up. And I do want to point out that we're now seeing our normal green singular circle is now replaced with a double circle in green. And this indicates that we're looking at the enterprise vantage points that I mentioned earlier in my slides. We also see a router icon that's replaced our playing nodes. And this is because the enterprise vantage points can leverage SNMP data and show critical infrastructure pieces with recognizable network symbols to show engineers what portions of the network that these tests are running over. In the Thousand Eyes platform, this is called device layer. So now as we can see this red line is running across our overlay, we recognize that the network engineers could run into some problems from a troubleshooting perspective. SD-WAN, as we can all agree, is game changing. And if the circuit goes hard down or a blackout type condition, traffic is moved over to a different attachment circuit. And that's great. But what's not so clear, problems that cause brownout type conditions, where network path is degraded due to packet loss, latency, or jitter. After all, we can't allow a circuit to just give us terrible performance, especially if this affects the flow of traffic in a design where optimal path is used for your real-time applications. So how do we troubleshoot these brownout type situations? Well, the easy button answer is we have to look at the underlay. Let's take a look at that. So as we look at this second test, we now recognize that the network engineers will see this, and the underlay from this case will help them see a test that is targeting our WAN interface of our SD-WAN devices. So as you can see here, we're hitting a public address in this case. So, and sure enough, we see increased latency, but let's look at the path visualization and see if we can identify the source of this latency. So in the path visualization, we have our branch office on the left, our branch offices on the left, our head end on the right, and clearly we see a last mile circuit with increased latency. We can hover over this link and see the provider as well as the increased latency from this. So, so we've really identified that sure enough that this last mile circuit is the problem in this case. And as we go through this, we could have easily taken a harder problem to troubleshoot and make it look like it's something that's easy and done within just a couple minutes and easy to resolve. So being able to quickly identify these problems is critical in a lot of cases. That mean time to innocence and mean time to repair are paramount in our days, right? So the final use case, our final use case is going to be around our employee digital experience. So we can test, we can see that the views section is slightly different from and it now shows like a scheduled test, browser sessions, and local networks. And the reason for this is we are now looking at the endpoint vantage point, which functions differently from the enterprise and the cloud vantage point. Some of the main difference are the endpoint is installed on an end user's machine, and this agent will gather some of the following things. So the scheduled tests, which is similar to an enterprise cloud and vantage point tests, with a couple differences where we can only test HTTP servers or network tests. The endpoint agent is intentionally lightweight to not overconsume users' machines' resources, where more complex tests and transaction tests would consume more machine resources. So we've kept this lightweight to make sure that we don't overwhelm a client, as well as the browser sessions. Now, the endpoint vantage point browser sessions is where an agent is monitoring the user's browser for interesting domains to report on the estimated experience score, which is similar to a UC's MOS score. And this is going to be a combination of loss, latency, jitter, browser errors, and several other factors here. And so this experience score, all those pieces combined will develop this experience score, which can be from 0 to 100. 0 will indicate a horrible experience, where 100, the internet gods have smiled on you and provided a perfect browsing experience, right? So additionally, we have the local network segment. And the local network segment is this network level information that's from the machine, which covers different things like DNS server loss, DNS server latency, gateway loss, which is a great metric to track if the end user has problematic router in their home office, among other important metrics. Additionally, we can see what's happening on a user's Wi-Fi at a layer 2, so we can identify, and my favorite is the retransmit rates. Let me show you why. We can see that these signal qualities are pretty strong, but when we look at the retransmission rates, here's the one thing I love about this. We can see what's happening on their Wi-Fi at layer 2, so we can identify this retransmit rates and the problematics. This might be from a problem with problematic home routers, or I've seen this a ton of times in proof of values, or some people call them proof of concepts, and we're likely. Well, as you are likely aware, anytime you have layer 2 retransmits rates over 3 to 5%, you're going to have impact on real-time applications. Your voice, video, VDI type applications are now suffering. And these other apps tend to suffer above, regular apps tend to suffer above like 9% on this. So now that I've covered some of the differences in the endpoint vantage point, let's get back to our task in this use case. And in this use case, we have a user that's reporting problems when browsing to GitHub. So let's take a look at this. Since we know that this is an active session, we can look at the browser sessions, visited pages, and sure enough, GitHub is reporting 0%, while other web applications are showing better performance. So if I click on GitHub, it will pull up the agents showing the problem, and sure enough, our reporting user is the subject of this outage or this problem. So what we see from this pop out is the machine's CPU, memory, IP information, as well as their wireless strength. With 50% isn't too bad. but it does provide some clues in what we should take a closer look at from a network portion of this case. So we can jump to that. We can see that, you know, there's not much else going from this standpoint, no CPU, no high memory or anything like that. So let's jump into our network portion of this. Okay, so let's find Ronaldo's laptop because he's the one that is reporting this issue. This would be our friend Ronaldo. We're going to only show his agent just to clean this up here. So we see, you know, really two domains of interest, as well as our target of GitHub, but also we see our provider, you know, our authentication provider, Okta. So we can see a fair bit of red on the network path and network nodes. In this case, we see multiple path problems within Telecom Italia as well as NTT, as you can see from here. And while we cannot do anything in this case, we can very easily share this event with our users who would likely understand the event and they can't, we can't do anything about it. We can save this link into our ITSM platform to provide visibility if anyone asks for additional detail from the tickets. And, you know, essentially, this is the problem we can do. So then that concludes my demo use cases, Joe and Doreen.
Awesome. Aaron, thank you so much for going through the demo. I think we will have some time for some Q&A, but I think we're here for the fun part. Definitely the demo was definitely fun. Everything we do in TechGlamLIVE is always fun, but we're going to go into some fun activities. So hopefully everyone is ready and attentive. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I'll show you what we're going to be doing today. So I don't know if you hear music, but so like Doreen mentioned, we have a Jedi skills challenge. And so for this month's challenge, we are actually going to be doing a Kahoot. So if you never played Kahoot, it's basically a trivia game where you're tested on both speed and accuracy. So we'll have some questions based on today's episode. For the winners, for the top three, we're going to be giving away some Thousand Eyes tumblers. So whatever you want to put in there, your choice of beverage to toast for your victory for today, you're more than welcome to enjoy. And we might throw something special at the end. We'll just see how things go for today. But in terms of housekeeping, if you registered on Eventbrite, I already have your shipping address, so we can easily coordinate the prizes. But if you're, you know, if you haven't registered on Eventbrite, you know, feel free to reach out to me at jmejica@cisco.com. Just provide me your information so that way we can coordinate and getting a prize over to you if you're the winner. So if we're ready to get started, let's get right into it. So like we mentioned at the beginning, so this episode is the first part of the full stack trilogy highlighting Thousand Eyes. In the next 2 months, the next 2 episodes, we're going to be talking about Interside Workload Optimizer and Application Dynamics. So definitely stay tuned and hear more about those episodes as we go along. True. Easy. Yes. Aaron, do you have any information on the integration that you want to share?
Yeah, so we have the 93, 9400s. Shortly, we'll have additional products coming out around that. But you know, the really interesting piece is around DNA and the consumers of DNA with you know, the higher levels of service, right? The premium, premier support, advanced support. those things are going to get you additional tests from Thousand Eyes as that are included in as part of your entitlement. So you get free access to Thousand Eyes if you have DNA with all those advanced support methods.
That's a tricky one, Aaron. We want to explain why it's all agents?
Absolutely. So each one of these vantage points are able to view a SaaS application. All three of them have the capabilities, whether it's a cloud agent that's hosted by Thousand Eyes, the enterprise agent that's looking out into where your applications are out on the internet, and your endpoint agents who can do, testing out to those different pieces of those SaaS applications.
False. That's correct. I believe, Aaron, I believe the missing piece was endpoints, correct?
Yeah, the endpoint, obviously is part of it, but we can see, our network infrastructure. We can see the customers, the end users' home network as well. So obviously we can see everything that's happening with those.
All right, looks like we got a spread. It looks like majorities for the original trilogy. Someone likes the prequels, the Disney era trilogy, and Star Wars. Doreen, what's your? Do you happen to have a favorite trilogy by any chance?
I like the original Star Wars.
Original?
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I like the originals, but I really, really do like what they're doing with the, the Bad Batch and some of those other things. Those are really fun.
Yeah, they're good.
Man, I'm gonna have to be the minority in this one. I kind of like the prequel trilogy because Anakin is just ridiculous. But I digress. Carrying on. There you go. So understanding the network experience issues during the checkout process. So just to kind of add us a little bit of a preview. So, seeing which line of code is causing the checkout process to fail, we're going to talk about that in our Thousand Eyes episode. Optimizing hybrid cloud resources, whether in the cloud or in your on-prem data center. We're going to focus that on our IWO session next month. But definitely the correct answer is on the user network experience. Anything you want to add to that, Aaron?
No, typically a lot of customers, when they see the network experience side of this, being able to gather that information from these tests and put it into things like AppD, being able to pull those is critical, and being able to provide those to application owners that necessarily aren't network engineers, but need to see the visibility of this data. And that's really where, we're going to see a lot of cool things coming here in the future. So.
Actually, I didn't know about this one, Aaron. Could you explain what's all this behind the SNMP
Yeah.
stuff?
So the Thousand Eyes enterprise vantage point, we're able to capture the SNMP information or pull these devices, pull them into our platform and represent them visually when we're running a test. So we can see different portions of the tests that are running over your switches, routers, firewalls. And certainly in the switch view, you're able to see utilization at any point, high CPU, high memory, those pieces. So you can kind of get a more correlated view of what's happening in the data center view. So.
Of course, if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to your respective account manager, Cisco SE, Aaron, Michael, whoever your respective account team is. We're always happy to help. So just to, as we, close off, we just have a couple of things that we just wanted to show. Doreen, let's talk about your channel real quick.
So today's episode will be posted on my YouTube channel called TechGlamTV, which you could see right here. There, you're going to find episodes of TechGlamLIVE and other videos related to Cisco. And what I want to reiterate is that if you've missed our last month's episode on Meraki, it's now posted on TechGlamTV as well. So you want to go back and check it out. So it looks like we have reached the end of our show, and it was an awesome one. Thank you so much, Aaron and Michael, for helping us deliver Thousand Eyes to everybody.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it very much. Been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So everybody join us next month for another fun-filled episode. We're going to be talking about Intersite Workload Optimizer. I'm Doreen Pepers.
And I'm Joe Mejica.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
See you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.